Okay, I say it every week, but remarkably we are on the final lap of episode 12. Just before we move into the discussion topic itself, please do keep across all our social media output. Please do get in touch. Thank you to everyone who takes time week on week, who has dropped in some comments or some questions, and you'll see these featured, or 9 or 10 of them featured on each episode. There's been a lack once again of WhatsApp voice notes. So Simon from Mildenhall remains our one and only champion and hero of the WhatsApp voice note. So I'm sure someone out there watching this episode would find it very easy just to go on WhatsApp, hold down that button, that record button, verbalise your comment or your question, and send that voice note form message into 360 Speedway, and we will be delighted to, and I almost guarantee that we will, feature it on next week's episode. Right, gents, let's go into the last lap then of episode 12. Now here's a subject which I've not heard talked about very much. I remember a few years ago there was a bit of a proposal to try and make this happen, and to the best of my knowledge or recollection, it didn't ever happen. So we're talking about Speedway needing to be bold, needing to be trailblazing, needing to potentially think out the box a little bit. So how about given modern age and the ease of travel all around Europe, flights are easy to arrange for riders and supporters, relatively cheap flights around Europe, etc. Is it time to potentially consider introducing what I'm going to describe as a European Cup? So think of maybe a handful of teams in Britain, in Sweden, Denmark, Poland, and any other European nation who might be able to muster a club or two. And how about some sort of knockout, home and away legged European Cup? Stuart McDonald, I'm looking at you first of all. What's your thoughts on something? Surely that's a super exciting prospect, Stuart.
Listen, I think it would be a great prospect. It'd be great for Speedway. It would be absolutely amazing for the fans to see some of the riders in, Sweden, Poland, Denmark, come over and race in this country. But I think the biggest hurdle they've got is costs. I think that's the bottom line. And, I think in the past 30, 35, 40 years, we've seen, the Swedish teams come over and do a little bit of touring. They did it at Glasgow, at Sheffield in the early 90s. And it was massive because the fans came out in the thousands. Listen, it's a great idea, great concept, and I would love to see it happen. You maybe get, Bellevue. Maybe you could fly a couple of teams in there from different leagues, but Bellevue obviously being the big one in this country. And I think the biggest issue would be costs. Fans travelling to these countries to watch their teams. It's hard enough just now. It's like Carl says, £10 sport. At the end of the day, these families need to have it at a cost where they can afford to go and watch. And I think if to go and watch them across the waters, it would just be too costly. It'd be a great thing to see. It would be absolutely amazing. We see how it works with the Champions League, your Europa League, all the different leagues, and it's great. It's amazing to see the best players and the best riders in the country. But I just think that the sport, I just don't know if it could sustain it financially at the moment.
Hey, Carol, I'll bring you into this. I think it's a fascinating concept, and with a bit of thought leadership, a bit of willpower, and obviously some collaboration internationally, between the Speedway authorities. Surely it's not impossible that something of that ilk, something of that nature, even in a sort of modest 8 club sense to begin with in year one, something of that ilk surely could be put into place.
Potentially, I think what the only downsides to it is, like Stuart says, the financial side. There's a cost involved. Look what these boys ride for in Poland compared to what they ride for in the UK. Now there's a massive, massive difference. And could we sustain that? Who pays who? Do the clubs, when they come over here, do we pay them? They're not going to come and ride for, I know there's figures been, floated around of sort of £3,500, £4,000 guarantees to top riders in the UK, which is crazy. We're only scraping the surface of what them boys are earning over there. for a second string rider is probably earning that, on a bad night. These are top riders in the UK that are earning that as a guarantee, that are Grand Prix riders. There's a massive implication with the finances. The other thing you've got to look at is Denmark only run 5-man teams now. So, they're obviously reducing their amount of riders, which obviously reducing their costs. Look how many riders that are based in the UK or riding in the UK now ride in Poland, ride in Sweden, ride in Denmark. To actually get a team to come over that hasn't got a rider riding in England is very difficult. And if you do have that, who are they going to ride for? Do they ride for their Polish club or do they ride for their English club? Do they ride for the Polish club in Poland, their English club in England?
Yes, that would be my answer to that one. Yeah.
That's how you look at it and go, well, and then people are going, well, hang on a minute, he's riding in the Knockout Cup, whatever it may be, for 2 different clubs.
Okay.
It's one of them. You're either riding for an English team or a British team or a Polish team or a Danish team or Swedish team. I can't see how you can mix and match. The idea is brilliant. I think it would be really good. And in the past, we've had teams come over. The Swedish teams used to do it quite a lot. But then look at how many riders there used to be back then. You didn't get as many mixing leagues, did you? Countries.
Yeah.
You didn't get that. You'd get the odd Swede come over and ride in the UK, but the Swedish teams that used to come over, we didn't know them. We didn't know the riders. They were still decent, but we didn't know them, and it's very difficult. And Poland's dictating a hell of a lot more now. They now dictate on a Thursday night. They dictate on a Friday night. They dictate on a Saturday. They dictate on a Sunday. If they get a call off on a Sunday, they dictate a Monday. In the UK, they're overpowering every speedway league because of what they are, and I just don't know how it would work. Great idea, but I just on the negative side, I just couldn't see it happening. I just couldn't see there being enough interest from teams abroad to come and do it.
Nigel, Stuart's mentioned some, Carol's mentioned some. I've got a list of, out the top of my head, of some issues that would have to be resolved and some things would have to iron out. Of course, there would be. And another factor might be you would have to consider that the respective team strengths internationally. So, is a Polish Extraliga team by design stronger than a British Premiership team? There might be some adjustments that you would have to make to equalise the team strengths in some way. But as a concept, Nigel, could you see it being something that Speedway fans would be excited to go to and watch?
I don't know. It'd be an expensive hobby, wouldn't it, if they didn't? It could finish 1 or 2 off. I mean, a great idea. I can't see it's ever working. And I think at the minute, British Speedway needs to get its own house in order. Never mind trying to bring teams over from there. Let's get our own house in order a little bit. Let's get going right. And when we do get going right, let's see if it could be organised, something like a Champions League thing. The top 2 or 3 teams out of the first division. The Poles will never agree to it, though I very much doubt that they'd come and do it. Not nowadays, not as they are. It would be very good, wouldn't it? It'd be nice to see them riders. Yeah. And I know you go on about strength and everything, but you take one of your Polish teams, your strong Polish teams, to Ipswich, getting around one of them tight little tricky tracks. Exactly. I'll tell you what, that would soon even up the averages. That would tight little Ipswich, So I don't know. The biggest thing, and it's the most talked about thing going, isn't it? The finances. Yeah,
but again, Nigel, as we spoke about for resurrecting the match races, I wouldn't be. I don't think it's a huge leap of faith to suspect that a sponsor or maybe a television company might be prepared to sponsor something like that.
I mean, in Poland, the television companies sponsor the Polish leagues, don't they? The Polish team.
Yep.
Would they? The trouble is, Poland wouldn't do anything to help us. They don't do anything to help us, do they? You know, they don't. Why are they going to try and get one of their Polish sponsors to sponsor a Champions League?
Because that would be the best way on track to settle whether Polish Extra League is the best or isn't the best. That would be the challenge.
Yeah. I know what you mean. But the same thing. When our boys who don't ride in Poland, I don't know if there is many nowadays, but when they go to Poland, it'd be as much hard work for them as it would be for the lads that haven't rode in England coming from Poland. Them coming here, it'd be as hard for us as it would be for them. So I don't know. It would be great, wouldn't it, to see?
It would be interesting. It would be interesting. Yeah, it would be
very interesting. Whether the crowd would come in sufficient numbers.
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking, you know, if you know, and I'm using Glasgow as an example, but if Glasgow participated and Glasgow were drawn against Wrocław in Poland or something that, I would have expected that supporters from Edinburgh, from Workington, from Berwick would travel to see that. From Manchester,
the other side of it, Derek, is how many Polish live in Glasgow.
Well, that's true.
Thousands.
Yeah, that's true.
Thousands. Yeah, you know, you'd maybe get them coming, wouldn't you? You'd maybe entice them to come. So, there's plus and minuses everywhere, isn't there? Positives, negatives. I'm sure, you know, if a Polish team came to Glasgow, I'm sure some non-Speedway supporters, because you talk to any Pole and they all know about Speedway, don't they? Even maybe don't go to Glasgow, live in Glasgow, don't go. But if you was to speak to them away from Speedway or, you know, general day-to-day, they will know what Speedway is and they'll have heard of the superstars in Poland. And if they were coming to Glasgow, there's every chance they might go and watch them, isn't there?
Yeah.
And you might entice new supporters in that way.
Exactly. I just find it an interesting concept, and 360 Speedsters, as you're watching this, you know, I get there would be lots of challenges, right? You know, not least of which the financial side of it, but nowadays versus 20 years ago, more and more riders are accustomed to racing in different countries. They've got bikes in different countries. They know the logistics of where to go and get support and all that good stuff. And you know, British supporters love flying out to Grand Prix overseas. And you know, why wouldn't you take a cheap flight out to Poland or Sweden to watch your team, right? To watch your team,
Make a weekend, make a little bit of a break of it, and I'm sure some supporters would love it and would follow it. I'm sure there is. It's just knowing whether there'd be. It's the same old scenario, isn't it? Till you do it, you don't know. But I'm sure there would be a certain amount what would follow it. It would be great to see, but I have my doubts whether it would happen. Certainly not at the minute, anyway. Let's get going a bit, and you know.
I hear you. A couple of steps backwards to go forwards, Nigel. That's your view. Yeah,
I've been saying that on here all the time. We need to take 2 steps back to move one forward. You know, and I think that's the only way we're going to progress is by doing that, and British Speedway looking after British Speedway. Never mind to come into the polls and everything. If they don't want to play ball on a Thursday, well then don't have them riders riding in this country. That's what I'd say, and put the English kids in. There seems to be quite a few English lads about at the minute. One could be at your detriment tonight, couldn't he?
I'm saying nothing. I'm tight-lipped. Stuart McDonald, I'm going to bring you back in, Stuart. Has this conversation turned your head, Stuart, a little bit? You know, the prospect of Glasgow or Bellevue up against a Polish Extraliga Cup club, I should say. And you know what? You know, even if there was only a couple of clubs, literally 2 or 3 clubs per country who were keen to take part in it, so, you know, that would be good enough for me.
I think you remember back at Sheffield when the Swedish team came, Derek, there was something like 6,000-7,000 fans there. It was phenomenal. And I think if you had 10 minutes up the road to me is Bellevue, and if you've got the prospect of watching Bartosz Marzlik racing on Monday night, you know where I'm going. And I'll tell you something, I think for probably a 50 to 100 mile radius, you would get fans coming. I really do. I think looking at some of the riders, and it's like Nigel says, Poland won't do this country any favours. I know that because they're the best, they're the biggest, they pay the most money, but Hans Nielsen said in the Speedway Star last year, if you want to be world champion or be the best in the world, you need to race in the UK. And that's the bottom line. And I think when some of these clubs come to the UK, like Nigel says, Bartosz round Ipswich would be just fantastic to watch. But some of the lesser experienced riders would struggle, and vice versa when they go over there. But I would love to see it happen. I really would. Nigel's obviously got his bit about the way that British Speedway is at the moment, and I agree with him. But I do think that if we had these clubs coming to this country, I think the stadiums would be packed. I really do, but it's the finances. It's like Carl says, I mean, what team do you pick to race for? Who pays your wages? Are they going to come and race for 2-3 grand when they're getting 15 grand? No.
Listen, Carol Johnson, there's nothing that's insurmountable, surely. And you know what? If Poland didn't want to play, then let's exclude Poland and let the Czech Republic and Germany and Sweden and Britain and Denmark, let them do it themselves.
Definitely, Derek. That's it. And stop bowing down to the Poles all the time. They're dictating to everybody, aren't they? Yeah. Dictating to everybody. Stand
Money
up.
Talks.
Pardon?
Money talks, Nigel, and that's what Poland's doing.
Yeah. I know that. Well, I spent a year or two at Glasgow. I know what you lot are like.
Do you know what though, Nigel? If my pipe dream was to come true, right? And I've got a little bit. It's not a blueprint, but I've written down. I've done some thinking around this, right? I don't think it's insurmountable, with a bit of will behind it. But if Poland didn't want to play and they were excluded from it, I bet you after a couple of years that they would be desperate to be part of it.
I don't know. Depends how good it keeps going in Poland, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Everything goes round in a circle, doesn't it? As I say, some of these top the top clubs in Poland are probably doing very well. But when you start and watch the second, whatever you call it, the next league down and the next league, I don't know whether the crowds are that brilliant then, are they? You see them ride into empty stadiums just like you do in England. I don't know just how successful it is lower down. I take it at the top, obviously, it's very successful. But I don't know. It's hard. It would be good, but yeah, I agree with what you're saying, Eric. If Poland don't want to be back, Czech and Denmark, Sweden, whoever wants to be, get their heads together and have a go. Like, yeah. But if Poland don't want, don't do it.
Carol, I'll give the last word to you this week. Be the voice of reason, Carol. Is there some merit in internationally, some international discussions to try and develop such a new initiative?
No.
voice of reason, Carol Johnson.
Like I said, it's a brilliant idea. The trouble is, and we all know, Poland dictate what goes on, and if they wasn't part of it, I would guarantee you that there would be something in these riders' contracts to say that they wasn't allowed to ride in it.
Okay.
For whatever club. Okay. And I'll guarantee you that because the contracts that I've seen from Poland to these riders, you wouldn't believe, and it'd be lovely, it'd be brilliant. Like I say, I think, I'm the same as Nigel. We need to strip back. If that means get rid of the top riders and build from, and have one big league and have lesser riders and so supporters see different clubs again like they used to rather than the same old clubs, every other week. But like you boys at Glasgow and Edinburgh, Christ, you must be sick of the sight of each other. Yeah. By the end of the season. But you strip it back, then you might look at some of the lesser, the Germanys, the Czech Republics, the Denmarks now. They're not the strongest of leagues, so then you might look at them and go, okay, well, let's do something with them rather than Poland. Let's forget Poland. Let's put Poland out of the way, and let's look at the others. We have a lot of riders riding in Germany, so that potentially the lesser countries, we could probably do something with, and cost wise. it wouldn't be no different to what we was paying now. You know, you're only talking big money when you start introducing the poles, and that's purely because of, you know, they pay Premiership footballer money to, you know, to Speedway riders, and you know that's what they want to do. And like Nigel says, they're lower leagues and nowhere near. They're probably supported as well, if not worse than what our leagues are. Mm-hmm. So it is only the extra league really that's afloat.
A bit of an outlier, but there you are on that bombshell. Let's draw a close to episode 12. Carol, Nigel, Stuart, as always, thank you for all of your contributions tonight. It's been another fascinating journey on 360 Speedway. We've covered a number of really interesting topics. I hope you agree. I hope you enjoy our output this week. I hope you enjoy our output generally. Please tell your Speedway friends. Please help us to grow the 360 Speedway family on social media. And thank you to everyone who has clicked to subscribe on our YouTube channel. That number continues to grow. The number of watch hours, I get to look at all the analytics week on week, and it's really quite encouraging. So thank you for keeping across and enjoying what we do. We will continue to enjoy doing that for you. Listen, from us to you, enjoy your weekend, enjoy the sunshine. Keep close to the world of Speedway. Get trackside. Have a good week. See you next time. Good night.
Cheers.
Bye.